Set?
Yes.
All right, great. Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Christopher Patrick King, and I appreciate your consideration today. I'm running for City Council because I believe that I can do the greatest good for the greatest number of our residents here in Culver City by serving as your City Council member. I love Culver City, and I'm a proud Democrat. I have a three-part platform that mirrors my initials and the branding of my campaign, which is CPK4CC, or Christopher Patrick King for Culver City. There's a fourth part of the platform as well that I call social justice, and within that area I lay out some of my beliefs that I believe passionately in. So let me get on the record on a few of those things. Number one, I adamantly oppose fracking. I would be in favor of our city to do whatever it takes in order to protect the health and safety of our residents. This has earned me the endorsement of activists such as Kin G, among others. We need to increase public participation in our city. People are not able to fully express themselves at City Council meetings. I have a program that we can implement to ensure that people feel heard and listened to when they come before the council. I have been and continue to be a staunch advocate for same-sex marriage and human rights. I'm an advocate for enhancing housing opportunities in Culver City, and I've done specific work in that field through my business as a mortgage professional. And finally, I believe that we must work together as a society to ameliorate homelessness, and as vice chairperson of our homelessness committee, I've done that. I'm frustrated with our current leadership. Our current mayor, with all due respect, says he's a proud Democrat, yet this is one of the few meetings that he's attended here at our club this year. Of all of us up here, I'm the only one who actively attends both our club meetings and our board meetings, and I go beyond that. At our board meetings, they probably wish I didn't go because I'm usually sweaty from having coached my marathon team, but I volunteer on our club committees. Thank you.
It's great to have a politician who is a marathoner. Next, Jeff Cooper.
Thank you to the Culver City Democratic Club for inviting me this evening to give your members a better chance to get to know me. Over the years, I've spoken to many of you, getting your insight, listening to your concerns and your ideas. Those conversations, they've made me a better mayor and a council member, and together we've accomplished much for our city. In the past 4 years, I've helped create a plan to keep our city on firm financial footing, move us all towards more environmentally sensitive practices as a city and as individuals, and above all, protect our neighborhoods. I can honestly say our city's on a great track towards the future. I've worked hard to prevent our residents from the danger of fracking. I am proud that my colleagues on council supported my motion to urge the state to put a moratorium on fracking, and that the state has finally taken some action towards creating tougher guidelines. Unfortunately, the state has not gone far enough. We will have to be vigilant in our fight to protect our residents from this dangerous practice. Our council has addressed the budget head-on. We've negotiated with our employee association groups with our benefit and pension packages to save the city millions of dollars and still provide our employees the benefits they need to protect their families. While the employees have agreed to the cuts, the Culver City Council members have felt their pain as well. I voted to eliminate our own lifetime medical benefits. I think that's just being fair. 4 years ago, I talked about a city council which we could all be proud of, a group of people who conduct the city's business with mutual respect for each other, and most importantly, for the public. We certainly don't agree on every issue we discuss, but we also do not hold grudges or let how we vote on one issue get in the way of another. Nothing gets done unless we work together, and that's exactly what's happening on City Council today. We need to continue to be creative, innovative, and smart how we guide our city into the future, and I hope you will trust me with your vote and your endorsement to do just that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Next, we have Jim Clarke, who I think people here know already, right?
Good evening, Democrats. That's how we start our meetings, right?
When I moved to Culver City in 1977, the first two people I met were Howard Walensky and Tony Schmigler. I was interested in Democratic Party politics, and they encouraged me to join the Culver City Democratic Club, which I did that month. A year later, I was the club vice president under Rose and Bernie Kordick, Gail Honowitz, and Trudy Chernitz. That was my start. I went on to become the chair of the 49th Assembly District, the fightin' 49th, right, Ruth? Now the fightin' 54th. Elected member and later chair of the Los Angeles County Democratic Party, party secretary of the California Democratic Party, and president of the California Democratic Council. But throughout, first and foremost, I have been a member of the Culver City Democratic Club. I have been honored by this club, and I have served as your MC at club installations, because it keeps me from sitting in the back of the room and making snarky comments. The club brings together a broad spectrum of Culver City residents who are committed to progressive causes and candidates. The club and its members are active participants and influential in city politics. I was pleased to have your endorsement when I ran 2 years ago on my first try for city council. Your mailer to Democratic voters made a significant difference, and I hope to be able to once again get your endorsement and your help. My theme 2 years ago was listening to your concerns, responding to your needs. My theme this year is following through on your concerns and needs. One of the best parts of being a council member is the opportunity to help address issues raised by residents. Culver City is a small town, and one of our assets is the ability to be in contact with your council members, whether it be by phone, email, or in person at events like this, the monthly meeting of the Culver City Democratic Club. Former Mayor Andy Wiseman referred to me as Mr. Everywhere, and I take that as a compliment and pledge, if re-elected, to continue to be available to you. Thank you.
And our fourth candidate, Gary Abrams.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I was here about 5 years ago. I came through and I vowed I would never come back again. But I'm back. This campaign is about putting Culver City first. We have no doubt faced and continue to face a very serious challenge and challenges at all levels of our community: economic, political, social, safety, and educational. There are challenges to our culture and to the moral fabric of our society, the family structure, the education of our children, and the deteriorating affordable housing stock in many areas of the city. We are challenged to make decisions on how and where we allot our city's diminished resources, and the need the residents continue to increase. But these challenges should not have ever defined Culver City. Culver City should be defined by its unique ability to leverage the honest and studious character of its residents and to overcome these challenges. No one person can solve all of Culver City's problems. It's going to take people who are willing to come together and work across the aisles and to bring about a change that is desperately needed. Personally, I vow to work diligently to bring together the different cultures in our community, as it is our differences we should embrace. It is our diversity that makes us strong. Let us work together to extinguish the fears that set us apart. Working together, we can restore the pride and confidence of our city. Putting Culver City first means transcending personal biases and relegating personal interests in favor of the greater good and helping our neighbor because it's the right thing to do. Putting Culver City first requires that our elected officials and public servants set aside ideological and personal differences to attend the services of the residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. We have a lot of time here for questions, and we do have a lot of questions. If you haven't submitted a question, you can still write it out and bring it up here. I'm going to try to combine the questions so that we'll maybe get through all of these. First one, which is a school bond question. There's going to be potentially a school bond measure on the ballot, and perhaps you could tell us about that. And also, I wonder what the city council does to support the city schools of Culver City. There is a possibility of funding, and you can explain how those organizations work together and what you would suggest we do as far as how to vote on the school bond. I guess I'll start left to right again.
Should we rotate?
If you
Suggest there's...
You're the candidates, you tell me.
You're running the show, your call.
My feeling is we'll go the same direction each time.
Okay.
Right, but we skip one person, we increment one person down each time, so the new person starts each time.
Okay, so starting this time will be Jeff Cooper.
I'm really proud to serve with our vice mayor on the school board city liaison committee. The schools in the city are inextricably just attached in so many ways. We have our parks, our pools. We share joint use with both of those entities. I'm proud that the city recently has really worked with the schools regarding their composting program, and we've helped assisted them to change from styrofoam trays to the cardboard trays. And it started at Farragut out of the 5 schools, and now El Marino, I think, just started today. So the city's involvement with the schools shall remain strong, and we'll look forward to continuing that relationship and nurturing it. Thank you.
First, I do support the school bond. I supported it before when it was being under consideration. I regularly go to the school board meetings, went to the school board meeting on Tuesday night to be able to hear the presentation that was made by the consultant about it, so we get more information about what this bond is about and making sure that it's something that not only is going to be good for the schools, but also good for us here in Culver City. We're really tied to it. You know, the kinds of creative economy that we're trying to bring into Culver City involve a lot of what I call the millennials. A lot of young creative type people that are young families. One of the first things on their mind is, what is the quality of the schools? So our ability to do economic development in Culver City is based on our ability to be able to provide a good quality school, good quality housing at reasonable prices for people to do that. I'm proud of the fact that also our liaison committee has done monumental work over and above what in the previous, and congratulations to Jeff and Megan for their work on that. Thank you.
One of the reasons I hate these type of formats is they don't give you enough time. Anybody who's familiar with me, if you read the front page online, I write forever. I cannot give you 90 seconds of what you really need to hear. The support of the schools is very little. Now, their idea of support of the schools is they let the school board use the city council one day a month and they charge them $300. There's a lot of other issues. They don't really support the schools, and I can't really tell you enough in this little short time. I'm sorry.
Thank you. So first of all, I would like to say that I would be in support of this bond measure, assuming that it comes up on the June ballot. I also would like to say that I worked significantly with former school board member Carlos Silviger, and I supported his courageous position, encouraging us to spend our money wisely. So he didn't want to put this bond before voters until we identified what repairs needed to be done, what order they should be done in, and also not finance things that would be, for example, paint and everyday maintenance over a 30-year period. That wouldn't be responsible. Thanks to his leadership, we got it to a point where now it is ready to go before voters, and so the answer is yes, I would support it. I would also like to deepen the relationship that we currently have with the Liaison Committee, and as president of the Culver City Rotary Club, I would like to see us do a better job of pulling in some of our fantastic nonprofits. Let's write some grants. The Rotary Club has written several grants, for example, most recently at El Marino, to put new computer labs into the El Marino schools that are touchscreen, state-of-the-art for the teachers. Let's do more of that. Let's pull together some of these fantastic community organizations that we have.
We've got got a couple of questions here on fracking. What will you do to protect us from fracking and acidization? And related question, LA City Council is getting ready to consider an ordinance put forward by Paul Koretz and Mike Bonin. And I wonder how that compares to what Culver City has done on fracking in terms of a moratorium or whatever it is that we're going to pass or have passed. So inform us about that. And we'll start with Jim Clarke.
I don't think there's anybody in the room that doesn't know that we sit on the largest urban oil field in the United States, and that 10% of that is in Culver City. So fracking is very important to all of us. We have taken action with respect to, we have an oil drilling ordinance that will be coming before the City Council. Within that oil drilling ordinance, there will be regulations pertaining to fracking to the extent that we as a city are able to do that. The true answer, though, too, is what we've done is to call upon the governor to create a ban or moratorium on fracking until it can be proven safe. There are a lot of questions on that. And we're fully in support of Senator Holly Mitchell's bill. We also support the actions of the City of Los Angeles and what they're doing, involvement. We would like the county to even be further involved in it. And I regularly go to the meetings of the Community Standards panel of the Community Standards District, the Community Advisory Panel of that, and to try to make sure that we're expressing our particular opinion about what needs to be done about fracking. Right.
Okay, now there's been an ordinance passed that they're going to stop using kerosene to frack. That's about the biggest change that the state has made so far. I read that today in the Days paper. That's LA Times. 90% of the oil reserves, or whatever that is you want to call it, is in Los Angeles. So Culver City is not going to have much influence on the difference of how they operate. So we can believe it or not, it's not going to be a whole lot of things we can do about it. We need to concentrate on our other pressing things like the skating rink and the auditorium and our schools conditioning and other things. This fracking is not really something we can influence, only because we only have 10%.
The bottom line is that the health and safety of Culver City residents has to come #1, period. There's no price on the lives of all of our residents here. We cannot allow corporations to hide behind trade secrets and try to continue to frack underneath our soil. For the sake of being completely transparent, I think it's important to note that at the chamber endorsement meeting, our mayor, and again with all due respect, stated that he was in favor of advocating for the state to pass a fracking measure. However, he would not support a city ordinance. I would support a city ordinance if that is the most that our city can do to oppose fracking. Would it lead to lawsuits? Perhaps. But again, the health and safety of our residents absolutely must come #1. I'd also like to say in regards to the county meeting that Councilman Koretz was prepared to speak on our behalf regarding this issue because of the strong stance I'm willing to take, so I would like to work with big cities like the city of LA on that issue.
Anybody that knows me knows that I've been a vocal advocate of fracking. But the reality is, we only have 100 acres of the 1,100.
You mean against fracking?
Against fracking. Pardon me. Let me repeat that. The point being, thankfully on our subcommittee for the city, Vice Mayor Sally Wells and Councilmember Weissman are doing a great job as we get ready to update our oil ordinance in the city and having tougher guidelines to really prevent and do everything we can do to fight against fracking. But the reality is, in the effort on my part and the other council members, is really the county and the state where the 1,100 acres. And that's where the effort is, and that's why I raised my motion that was supported unanimously by my council members. And that's where we have to really put the fight and put the pressure on those electeds. Thank you.
Ready for the next question? Actually, this is 2 people wrote in on this, and this is about how many people vote in elections. In a typical city council election, only about 20% of the registered voters vote. What would you do to increase citizen participation in city council elections? And a related one, Megan Sally Wells, our elected leader of the year, advocates for consolidated elections to promote for greater voter turnout. That means elections would all take place the same day in either June or November, when all the other cities are voting, and I guess it gets a maximum turnout, as you might imagine, especially if someone's running for president or something. So, having those two questions, what's your position on how to get more people to vote?
I didn't plant that, by the way.
Well, since it was there, I thought I should read it, since you are our elected leader of the year.
How many people use the internet out here? That's the way to go. Okay, because all these signs and all of those different things, they're just damaging the environment. We're killing trees and wasting money. How many people vote because they see a sign in someone's yard? I'm sure it's a few of y'all. Nobody's admitting to it? Okay, so the internet. We have a free Woman League's voters thing. They have the front page online, very informative. How many of y'all read that? Not that many, that's the problem. You have to be informed, you have to go internet. This is the 2014, I know Culver City likes all this stuff, nostalgia. You know, it's like those buildings that have the, what is that they give you? The historical value, the schools, this place here. Only place you got hot is the City Hall, okay?
For me, there are two key issues when we're talking about voting. Number one, the key is we have to increase participation in our election system, because we need to increase the number of people whose voices are heard in our political system, especially here in Culver City. And secondly, I believe that this is a question about our city being able to be more financially savvy and potentially save money by consolidating elections. I'd like to say that I would be in support of our council member Sally Wells, Vice Mayor Sally Wells' efforts. It will be challenging though. This would require a charter review, and the second issue we have to deal with is that the school board races are administered by the county, the city races are administered by the city staff. Or by the city. I'm not a person who likes to say, oh, well, there's bureaucracy, so let's not take this on. We should absolutely take it on. Cities like Santa Barbara have come up with a unique prospect, though, where they have moved to an all vote by mail system. They've noticed that has increased voter turnout. I would like to look for creative ways in which we can increase the turnout and the voter participation in Culver City. Thank you.
Right here, right now, every day, I hope that most of us up here, we walk, we knock on doors, we engage the community. Nothing gives me greater joy, and especially now more than ever, as I talk to new people that are moving to our city and engaging them, and them realizing, wow, you're an elected, and you're coming to knock on my door. That's how we get out there, and that's how we get the vote and encourage new people to vote. On the other issue of combining elections, definitely open to discuss it, and I have discussed it. We've done that on our school board city council liaison committee a little bit. I'm not inclined to support it at this moment, and the reason why is on each of all of our election committees, it's really hard to get volunteers. And I think by really having 10 possible candidates running, how many people can actually work on these committees and get out and talk and assist them to run a campaign. Thank you.
Thank you.
If we were in Chicago tonight, you could ask the question of how do we get a person to vote more often? But here we're asking how do we get more people to vote? I believe it's by doing mail ballots. I think that's an important start to do. I think being able to open up and have pre-voting hours at various places or weekends before is an important way to do it as well too. One of the things that I've asked Bill Wynn before about doing was, would the club take on a permanent voter absentee ballot program to go, because the problem is when we're candidates, we're talking to the people that we know are going to vote, and I don't have a lot of time to go and try to convince somebody who's not registered or may only vote once in a blue moon to go vote. But that's a great program for the club to do, to get more people to sign up to be permanent absentee voters. You'll get more participation. I'm not necessarily for consolidation because I don't want to necessarily run against Barack Obama or Jerry Brown on the ballot, you know.
This is about what has happened to this local cities due to the end of redevelopment. The state has dictated that local cities cannot have redevelopment zones, which are a kind of tax advantage for funds for long-term building projects. And maybe you candidates can explain how that works, and specifically, what can you do to make up for the lost money?
That's a great and very important question. As someone who's not a current incumbent, I believe that it's important for me to have new, creative, fresh ideas, and that's absolutely what my campaign is all about. As I mentioned before, my branding, the C part of my platform stands for Comprehensive Community and Economic Development Plan. Our city, for the last 20 years, has not redone our master plan. We haven't taken the time, we haven't made the investment to sit down and seriously think, as a city, pull together stakeholders, how we can enhance our city revenues. How would I suggest this? There are a few unique programs that I'll mention briefly. One is one that the City of Portland is doing. It's a microcredit financing program. This pulls in private investors, and the funds that are pulled in from those investors have to be spent by local businesses on growing local business in our communities. I think that's one creative idea. I have several others, but I can tell that Steven's about to flip the card over. But one thing I mentioned is that during the city's layoffs, we got rid of our business expediter. That means that when we have businesses here, they aren't able to get through the process as quickly as they should.
True enough, redevelopment agency allowed the city to have exponential growth and really make our city attractive to so many other businesses to come in and do work. How do we operate and function in a post-redevelopment age? We go out, we reach out to the businesses on the street. Just recently on Sepulveda Boulevard between Culver Boulevard and Braddock, I walked the streets with redevelopment, both successor agency employees and members of the Chamber of Commerce, and we formed a community business district with the businesses down there. They've now become something called Culver Village. They've gotten to know each other, and that brings people together. This is something that started with the Downtown Business Association, and we're also, my Councilmember Clarke and I are doing that in the West Washington area. That's how you really reach out to businesses. We have a smart business economy in Culver City, and we need to nurture the creative arts as much as we can.
Well, short of buying lottery tickets or robbing a bank, there aren't a lot of opportunities in terms of revenues as a result of the loss of redevelopment. But we are doing some things that are important to do, and we're looking at some of those. First of all, public-private partnerships is very important. We do a lot of that you don't even know about in this city with Sony, doing things to support projects. We can do more of that activity. We can create something called infrastructure financing districts as a way to be able to pay for projects and have them paid out over a long period of time, or we can create economic development corporations. These are all tools that are available to us, and the main thing that we can keep doing is keep pressing the state to give back our redevelopment projects so that are ready to go, ready to break ground, and that we can get this economic engine going again. And to do that, and that's very important for all of us to do. So those are the things that I think that we can do to bring in more revenue. Thank you.
When they had the CRA, they couldn't give that money away fast enough. $5 million, $6 million at a time. Like I said, this is not enough time to inform you of all that. I've been battling politics in Culver City for 5 years already. So I know all the things. I ran for the school board, so I did a lot of work. I'm going to have my website done soon, because I had to go back and do 5 years of research, and it will inform you of all the things that they have done and have not done. When they got ready to close the CRA, they scrambled and got over $435 million worth of binding contracts. So they always tell you there's no money in Culver City. There's lots of money, but it's not enough money for what we want it for. It's always what they want it for.
Two people asked this question, almost the same question. What is your plan for the future of Culver City? What is the most important change you feel the City Council should make for Culver City's future? So this is a general question of what do you think is the most important thing to do for the future. What's next?
I feel the most important issue that we're facing right now is to really solve our issues with the state of California regarding 3 large pieces of property in Culver City. The one piece of property that sits between the Culver Hotel and Trader Joe's, the Expo Station property, and then Washington Sentinel. Until we can solve that issue, and I think we're really finally close, that will put a huge burden off the city of Culver City that we're feeling right now. Another big issue that we're facing is our stormwater drain project that's been mandated from federal EPA. Our city represents only 4% of that project, but that project means $50 million. How are we going to fund that? We're looking for a lot of different ways. I've drafted a letter to Congresswoman Karen Bass asking for help. But we need to really sit down and figure out and deal with those issues, because as firm financial footing as the city is on right now, we are in danger. Thank you.
Well, the mayor's touched on 2 of the important things. Getting back our redevelopment projects, also this issue that's coming up with stormwater runoff and how we're going to be able to pay for it, which is going to be very difficult for us. But we've had a problem that's gone on for a long time that we're hopefully getting to begin to address, which is the problem of parking and traffic, particularly in the residential area. All of the economic development that we would like to be able to do here gets stymied if we don't have adequate parking or there's congestion. So for a long range, we've got to be looking at what are we doing to encourage alternative transportation, getting people to ride the expo, getting bike paths put in and bike lanes put in and bike sharing programs put in, get more people out walking, create livable kinds of areas like Culver Village and that, where people will get out and start actually walking and getting around to do that. So those are 3 things that I think. And then, of course, everything that comes up is this public safety, public health issue, whether it be fracking or any other kind of issue that may come before us in the future. Thank you.
What's lacking in our leadership? Intelligence, common sense, wisdom, compassion, and integrity. All those things are missing. You never see that on any of these cards or any of them admitting to that. Those are things you can do to solve a lot of your problems. You don't have to be rocket scientists in that. It takes a collective group of people, find out what the problem is and solve it. But we don't have intelligence, common sense, wisdom, and compassion, and integrity. That's what's the problem. There's no other problems other than that.
I'm happy that there was an audience member that asked this question. I have a very specific plan for our future. I'm calling it Culver Vision 2020. I think that our city needs to get back to rebranding ourselves as the heart of Screenland, and we need to take that seriously. Let's take a portion of the funds from the transient occupancy tax, the TOT tax that our hotels here in Culver City actually supported, although that's a tax that they pay into. Let's utilize that money to start branding Culver City within Los Angeles County. Something simple that we can do that would be cost effective is that we could take the current terminus of the light rail station, which right now is a completely missed opportunity. Let's do something creative like building a yellow brick road in the cement that leads people from there into downtown Culver City. This is a creative, relatively inexpensive idea. Secondly, a letter to our congressperson is not enough. It's time that we get folks on the council that are going to be bringing some new ideas before the council. They're going to try to shake things up a little bit and move us forward as a city in a more productive and proactive fashion.
There has been a lot of recent news about huge rent hikes for both residential and commercial renters. What will you do to ensure affordable housing and cultural diversity in the city?
Well, part of the things that we lost with redevelopment, people think of redevelopment, they think of brick and mortars, but part of a lot of the funds that went for that went for things like rental assistance and other counseling services to people that are low income. And we've lost that as well too. We need to get that back. We need to fight for when we get redevelopment back to make sure that part of that funding that can be used for affordable housing. And that's important to do that. The issue about rents and what's going on in this city, we've had some pretty dramatic things happen recently, but I'm not sure that that's necessarily indicative of everything that's going on in Culver City. I want to make sure the council at the last meeting decided that we would have an open meeting about this, let people come in, talk about it so we can get a good understanding and idea about is there a significant problem or not in Culver City with respect to rents. I don't want to necessarily just be fed by hysteria or headlines in newspapers. I want to know what the actual facts are, and if there is, then we can address those either on a broad base or on a case-by-case basis as they come up.
There should be some type of rent control. I'm a property owner, and I understand the compassion that the people who own property want to continue to make a profit, but we have to help our not so fortunate people. And when you start jacking up these prices 50% more than what they're paying, it doesn't justify causing people to have heart attacks and those. There's a lot of adversity about the rent control, but I'm sure with putting together a program that would protect people and protect the owners from having a default on their property. So I'm for rent control, but I'm for passionate rent control.
I'm very proud that at the city council meeting that was referenced, there were 3 people that got before the council and requested that the council agendize this very issue. I was one of those 3 people that very strongly urged our council to agendize this item, which they did. Earlier last year, our council member, our Vice Mayor, Megan Sally Wells, had a fantastic forum on affordable housing opportunities. We need to follow up on that, and we need to do so quickly. There are people here in our city who are suffering and who are struggling under these increased rents. What's something specific that I've done? Being that I'm in the real estate industry and that I own a mortgage company, I worked with a major developer in downtown Los Angeles. We wrote a position paper that lists specifically about 5 different ways that cities can partner with developers to create make-sense, affordable housing that works for developers and that creates additional units that we desperately need here. Even with the 33 units that were built, it's still desperately inadequate for the supply that's needed. And I'd like to be on the record and state that only 0.6% of the money that our city spends goes toward programs like the RAP voucher. We should never attack a program like that.
I think the real issue here is affordable housing. And I'm proud that our city council has created more affordable housing in Culver City than the previous 2 decades. We have another 10 units that are going to be coming on board on Globe Avenue of project with a private partner project with Habitat for Humanity. And as I see that, there's, without redevelopment, of course, where do we go in the future? There's many ways we can look at besides public-private partnerships. There's something called inclusionary housing, where developers would be given a density bonus and they would be able to have to provide so many affordable units. There's a Senate Bill 391 that's actually on the floor right now, so the state is actually looking at ways to provide more money to be able to fund affordable housing for the cities and counties of Los Angeles. Thank you.
Let me just have a couple more questions before you wrap up. This is a general question. What do you read in general? And what are your sources for news and politics?
Well, I listen to KPFK, number 1. I read lots of things. I go on the internet. I read the front page online. Get a lot of information from that. I go back into years so I can find out what was going on in Culver City before. I do help my kid with his homework. I do a lot of that reading. He's 11 years old. And I have a kid in college too. I don't have to help him too much. I read the LA Times. I don't read the sport part though. Or the entertainment. I read mostly business, the front pages. That's kind of the local. That's how I found out that they were banning the fracking with kerosene. That's about the biggest difference they're making. And I read the Wall Street Journal.
So there are several things that I read, and you'll notice that I'm definitely a dork from UCLA, Political Science Department. One, thank you, go Bruins. One is, of course, Bill Gross. Bill Gross talks about the new normal. He's an economist, and he talks about the fact that we need to reset our expectations. So we got used to big corporations turning these 20% profits for us. That's not reasonable. That's not realistic. I like his make sense, rational thinking. Secondly, again, being a dork, I read Foreign Policy magazine. I love to read the heavy-hitting academics from the UCs, from the more liberal schools, and then also how they usually get into dialogue with some more conservative voices as well. And of course, I like the progressive voices. Thirdly, and I feel bad for my girlfriend, but I also read John Nachbar's City Manager's Report. When I should be going on dates with her, I'm reading that. I'm sorry, Allison. Because I'm not on the council now, I think it's important for me to be absolutely as in tune and in touch with the city as I possibly can be. And the way that I can do that is by going to city council meetings, which I do, going to neighborhood council meetings, and reading his report. Thank you.
As one of the electeds and having several more in this room, we have to do a bit of reading regarding the city hall, and that chews up a bit of time. Daily reading for me, my mornings start out with the Los Angeles Times. It's sort of a rite of passage. That's my hour in the morning that I give to myself. Evenings, late evenings, my range of reading really goes from Mother Jones to the Wall Street Journal and anywhere in between. And I kind of run the gamut, and I think that's how you really get a wide range of opinions. And as a council member, it's important because it's not about what I think. It's about talking to people that agree on an issue. It's about people that disagree on an issue, and really just getting a worldly view that helps you carve your opinion on any specific issue that you're really going to weigh in on. Thank you.
Before each council meeting, we get an agenda packet, and it's got somewhere between 600 to 1,000 pages of reading that I have to do from Thursday until Monday. So it's like reading War and Peace every 2 weeks, except not as exciting as that. I just finished Robert Cano's bio of LBJ, which is really interesting reading, and I also am reading something called Battling the Inland Sea, which is actually from the early 1920s. It's the history of California's water wars, and I think with conservation and all the drought problems we're going to have, it's worth reading. But since my goddaughter's mother writes for the LA Times, I read that religiously. And because I worked on Capitol Hill, I still like to follow Politico and Roll Call in the Hill to find out what's going on there. And my listening is KPCC and the POTUS station on Sirius XM, which is also all about politics. Oh.
This is a question about real estate, which is a little too nerdish for me.
Thank you, Jim Litz.
What is your feeling about taxes such as a 1% tax on real estate sales when the self-same buyer is representing buyer and seller? So enlighten me about taxes.
Nuisance taxes.
I don't know.
There was a question about nuisance taxes.
I try not to put loaded words into the question.
I don't understand the question. Is it yours?
No.
So, being again that I'm in the mortgage and real estate field, this is a topic that comes up. I am a member of our Beverly Hills Greater Los Angeles Realtors Association Political Action Committee, and as that we do a lot of research and a lot of digging on how various taxes can affect the real estate market. A tax such as this is something that could potentially, as was mentioned, be a nuisance. It could hinder property sales. Currently in Culver City, our property values are going up. This is very fortunate because it also adds money to, aside from making residents happy, it adds money to the city coffers vis-a-vis the property tax that we receive, which although it is a very small amount. If the concept of the question was, are there ways that we could potentially generate more funds through real estate, that's something that definitely deserves to be looked at, but not if it's going to negatively impact our Culver City housing market and the values that we're enjoying here in Culver City.
I'm not sure I understand the question. Could the person who submitted the question kind of rephrase that?
Up and do that?
I didn't submit it.
There are real estate sales where both the same broker represents both buyer and seller.
Okay.
And that is something that philosophically we might want to discourage. So things we want to philosophically discourage, we put nuisance, small taxes on.
Who pays the tax?
That's why the nuisance tax.
But is it this, okay. I'm not quite sure, but to answer that question, just briefly, from what I'm hearing, is it's a choice of the buyer if they're going to choose to make an offer with their realtor or go to a listing realtor. And typically, when I see that people choose the same realtor to represent them in sale and to represent the seller, they can usually negotiate the percentage and commission down. So, but it's a double edge, because more often than not, and my recommendation to buyers is, who does that real estate agent represent truly in the transaction? And that's something that is a big concern to me.
Well, Jeff Frank said earlier, Winston Churchill said there's no such thing as a poor short speech. He probably also said something like, don't fake it when you don't know the issue. I don't know the issue, David, I'm sorry. Is that right? Were you the first?
Okay, we're coming to the end of our questions here. I just have to point out that to me, the biggest nuisance is Wall Street, and I would love to have a Wall Street tax, specifically 1/4 to 1/2% on each transaction. That would rein them in on their craziness, and it'll happen someday. Anyway, I don't know if anyone else has some burning question to ask, but I'd like to, I had a feeling, Neil, have you been heard from yet, Neil? Do you want to ask something?
I would.
You wouldn't? Okay, we're going to go.
Yes, he does want to be heard from.
Walk up. Neil, walk up.
I can hear you and repeat it if you want, otherwise it's your mic.
My question is about the pensions and liabilities to the city thereof. What are you guys going to do if you're elected to get pensions under control? I just read today that the state of California is over $270 billion in unfunded pension liability. I don't know how much it is for the city, but what are we going to do before we go possibly bankrupt or in a worse situation? Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, this is about pensions, which in the case of public employees, some people think are unaffordable, and what can be done about that? I got to point out that I have a private pension, and it's much too small because my union officers didn't know how to negotiate. Now, if some other unions did know how to negotiate, good for them. But this impacts all of us when it comes to the price of government. So let's hear your answer on public sector pensions.
Unfunded pensions are a critical issue really for every city in California, and it's something our city council inherited. As I said earlier this evening, our council was really the first council in a couple of decades to really renegotiate those benefit and pension programs with our city employees. It wasn't easy to ask our employees to give a larger share. And as I also said, though, to be fair about it, we had to feel that pain as well, and that's why we eliminated our own lifetime benefits. But the most important part of it is that the employees and their families are still protected. Is there more to do? Absolutely. We've got to be able to create more revenue, and that comes through economic development. And I don't know if anybody was aware, but during this time several years ago, our reserves were really pretty much down to the brink. And now they really have recovered to a sufficient point. Will it fix that issue of unfunded pensions? No, it won't right now.
I wish I could take credit for the action of the previous council in reducing the pension benefits and health benefits that they did. Yeah, but Mayor Wiseman and Jeff and that were on there, and Mihal and the others that did that took that step forward. It was a tough step to be able to do that. I think everybody knows that a retirement is a contract that you have. And so basically, any kind of changes that we're going to be doing, we have to do with respect to new employees. Or you negotiate with the existing employees to get them to make a greater contribution toward their particular retirement or their benefits with it as a meet and confer issue. I got to tell you folks, we have an issue coming up where, because CalPERS made bad investments, in terms of their return, we have to make up the difference. And we're facing a 50% increase in employer contributions over the next 5 years as a result of that. That's going to be a tough negotiations that we're going to have to deal with, but we've done that before, and we will continue to be able to to do what's best for our employees and what's best for the city.
Well, I think negotiation is the key. They touched on pretty much all of that. I'd just be redundant, but that's something to negotiate between employers and the employees, and you try to get to what's fair for everybody. That's normally the way you do it.
I'm going to use a couple seconds and touch on Lee's first point about corporations and say that I think one thing we have to get done, first of all, is get Citizens United out of our current legislative system. That was an awful decision. But let me get back on topic. As far as our pension liabilities, I'm troubled that our council members have talked about the fact that, yes, CalPERS is increasing their contribution requirements next year because of poor investment choices. And secondly, yes, there is a $50 million bill coming to the city for stormwater runoff requirements. What's the issue, though? Why haven't we been planning for this? As I've been going out in the community, my girlfriend and I and my friends that we're walking with joke that residents are saying that I'm the man with the plan. That is what the first and foremost part of my platform is. We need to invest in our city. We need to redo our master plan so that we can actually come up with concrete, specific ways in which we can address these budget challenges. We can't keep status quo right now and saying, oh, we have these things coming up, and yes, they're going to be challenges. No, it's time to come up with creative solutions to generate the revenue so that we don't have to come back, as we did with the sales tax measure, and try to balance our budget on the backs of our Culver City residents.
Done. I think it's time for final. We're time for final. We need to leave time for the members here to make their own appropriate comments when the candidates have left the room. So I'm just going to say you got about a minute here to
90 seconds.
As the paddle says, 90 seconds. As much as you want to make your final comments, which I'm sure you're prepared. But of course, it's 90 seconds. Okay, well, it says 90 seconds. I agree. Who wants to go first?
Listen to the paddle.
Going the other way.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Sorry, Gary.
You guys decide.
There you go. So I get you get.
Stand up, Gary.
Yes,
Okay, Mom.
I'm tired now. The will of the people. All that is required is political will on the part of City Hall and active engagement from city residents. I need to say this again? Okay. The will of the people. All that is required is the political will and the part of City Hall and active engagement from city residents to make sure that the city has that will. 90 seconds.
I want to thank you for the opportunity to discuss issues here tonight with you. I very much appreciated your endorsement 2 years ago, and I hope that I can again get your endorsement and your vote. I'm pleased to be endorsed by Congresswoman Karen Bass, by our State Senator Holly Mitchell, and 24 current and former mayors, council members, and school board members. And last night by the Los Angeles County Democratic Party, along with my colleague, Jeff. But most importantly are the hundreds of residents who support this campaign. If you'd like to help, please sign up on the back. I've got a clipboard back there. You can sign up. We'll give you a lawn sign so you can show your support. Or you can visit us online at www.clarkeforcouncil2014.com. It's on the bottom of this card. Thank you.
I'm proud of my record over the past 4 years. Opposing fracking, making tough financial decisions, increasing affordable housing, and many other topics on which I believe the Culver City Democratic Club and I can agree on. The club and I agree on most issues, and I believe I've represented your interests well over the past 4 years. I appreciate the endorsements I've received from your members of the club, like Vice Mayor Megan Sally Wells, Council Member Jim Clarke, Ronnie Jane, Tom Camarella, Ron Wynn, and many others. I'm proud of those people who've endorsed me because it shows that groups of often divergent interests, like the Culver City Chamber of Commerce and the Los Angeles County Democratic Party, agreed that I will continue to do a good job for the city. I'm proud that every member of both the City Council and the Board of Education have endorsed me and supported me as well. The faith in me is something I do not take lightly. I will continue to push for zoning requirements for developers to add more affordable housing. I will continue to stand up to the oil companies and advocate a statewide moratorium on fracking. I will continue to explore innovative ways to spur economic development in a post-redevelopment world. Culver City is a great city. I love living here, and it's been an honor and privilege to serve on the City Council the past 4 years. I promise you this, I will continue to listen to all of you, share your ideas, and work hard for the city of Culver City. I know that together we can make Culver City the best it can be. I'm Jeff Cooper, and I respectfully ask for your vote and endorsement. Thank you.
Thank you all for your consideration. As I've mentioned several times tonight, it's time that we get new, thoughtful ideas on the council. One thing that didn't come up tonight is our environment, and I'd like to say